Today we are going to study a very interesting area called organizing as an element of management. This is a very important subject which you have to study very in detail, because it will not only will look into some of the organizing component of it, but also what are the elements of management which are basically related to it. Now, when I'm talking about what do you mean by organizing? Now, this is a very common word. I'm sure all of you are aware of it. The word organizing is about creating a functional structure for the organization, allocating the different functions to groups of persons of the various units of the organization to achieve the goals and their objectives. So every organization which you have come across or you will be coming across, it has certain objectives, certain goals to reach out. And that organization is having acquired a large number of people, and every person in that organization, he has certain roles and responsibilities to play. So there is a functional as well as an operational complete ecosystem you will come across when you talk about an organizing. So you have to organize, you are organizing something. Organizing is a systematic process. It's a very systematic arrangement of you identify the different activities, and all these activities you have to systematically arrange them. It is a process of management. It is essentially related to dividing and subdividing and grouping of activities also. So it is very important, because unless and until you understand the activities, you cannot divide them and you cannot subdivide them also. If many persons are involved in the activities of an organization, it is imperative to determine the role of each person and the group as a whole to attain the goals and objectives of the organization. Now, I'm sure you must be aware, like when somebody, is applying for a particular job and gets appointed in a particular organization, the first and the foremost thing is that he is given a kind of a assignment, a kind of a job order, that these are the activities you have to perform, which are aligned with the organizations. Okay, so even if it is a one-man organization, it is necessary for the person to divide the work, to apportion time to each units of work. You are not going to do only one work. You are going to have several activities. So you yourself have to, prioritize the things, which one I'll do first and which one I'll do last. So, and there are a lot of things, and each one of them, you have to break them into several units so that you can give your 100% each and every units which you have broken down. So organizing is to determine what work is needed to be done and by whom, and what materials, machinery, equipment and other resources are to be used. Assigning those tasks to individuals and arranging those individuals in a decision-making framework, that is an organizational structure. Now these four components, materials, machinery, equipments and resources, even if you are in the library field, you would see in coming in other modules and all, as you will grow up, you will see all these four components are of immense use when you are as a library information science professional. Organizing as a functional management. The organizing as a functional management requires to undertake several tasks, such as determination of the activities to be performed. So there is certain activities you have, lined up. So you are determined that you are going to give your 100% to those activities. Creation of departments, divisions, sections, units, positions, etc. And establishing a relationship among the various parts of an organization. So these are the three major components we you need to understand as a function of the functional management of an organizing. The purpose is to create a framework, that is an organization structure, for the performance of the activities of the organization in a systematic manner. This framework of division of work. so that duplication doesn't take place. And establishing formal relationship between them is known as organizational structure of the organization. We'll see some of the examples of that. And such a organizational framework is also very necessary for in a library structure, because in the library also you have a definite structure, a kind of what we basically called as an organogram. You have a different structure is there, organization structure is there, and each one of them play their own activities, each one of them play their own important roles, and they are connected also to each other. So organizational structure of a library would comprise the following depending upon the size of the library and its scale of operations. Now, there are libraries are of different size. It could be national library, it could be public library, it could be academic library, it could be a special library, several kinds of libraries. Libraries, some people have got a library in their one room. The number of departments, divisions, sections, units, etc. That is how you measure the scale of a library. The function of each of the above and their relationships, the duties, the responsibilities, the authority, and the accountability of each, and the channels of communication, that is the path through which the informations are passed on. Instructions travel from one position to another and from one level to another. Now, this is a typical example, a structure, organization structure I have taken up. Now, here you can see the university librarian is at top, who is the major decision maker. Under the university librarian, you have three associate librarians. So the associate university librarian, he was into network information resources. Another associate librarian, which is on organizational development. And another associate librarian is looking after the administration. And each and one of them, all the three greens, under which you can see a clear structures that they have certain definite roles, and there is a line of people under them. And each one of them, there is no kind of duplication or the overlapping is there, but there is a connectivity. What is most important, because at the end of the day, all of them are serving to the user. So there is a connectivity that exists between all of them. Let us take an example of an Ashoka University. It's a very renowned university in the country. Like, for example, you have a vice chancellor, and under which you have a director library. And there is a library advisory committee, who is not a library information science professional, but provides a lot of support to the library development. But under the director library, you have three major divisions. Deputy librarian, two deputy librarians are there. It's an assistant librarian is there. And there is one senior executives and executives also, and there are library assistants and attendants also. So if you see the previous organization structure and this organization, one can easily make out, depending upon the scale of the library, the number of staff, the number of divisions, the number of units which are broken down. And you can easily find out, this is a typical example of an academic library in a kind of a small university library. Another small public library. Now, this is a small example of a public library. Now, generally, public libraries are very big, very, very big in nature. But here, there are several public libraries. Like in Delhi, there are several public libraries. There are more than 30 public libraries in all over Delhi. Now, if I take one particular public library of one particular place, you have certain basic structure available with that. So this is a small public library of a bigger public library system. So you need to understand. But the reporting is to the public library director, who is the total authority of that. But you have other sections also. So organization size is a very important thing. It is obvious. In a small organization where only a few persons are involved, an elaborate provision of the organizational structure may not be necessary, although the work may have to be shared between persons who are involved in the activities. In larger organization where a large number of persons are working and operating, it is essential to organize the work, dividing the work into smaller units, as we have seen in the organization structure, and the fusing duties and the responsibilities to every person and at every level. The nature of work, performing techniques and time required to perform, etc., are part of the work and job analysis to get the best out of the staff. What do you mean by departmentalization? As I've said that, the bigger organizations or bigger public library systems or in a bigger library systems, you have small divisions or departments. The process of grouping related work into manageable units is known as departmentalization. The purpose of departmentalization is to contribute to the optimal efficiency and effective utilization of organizational resources. This division of work is done not only at the top level, but also down further in the hierarchy, depending upon the nature of work at different levels. Now, departmentalization in the library. There are quite a few characteristics to divide and group of activities of an organization. But the characteristics chosen for the division must be such that they are relevant. So you please remember, it has to be relevant to the purpose and produce the desired results. Then only the division is required. So for library management, the most common characteristics basis for, when I talk, if I take the word relevant for departmentalization is the function. The function or the operations they perform. Almost every library uses this criteria, which divides it into functional departments or operational departments. Even in our library, in Terry Library also we have like acquisition, processing, reader service, stock maintenance, circulation, information and documentation service, etc. Each of these functional units may have to be further divided depending upon the volume and the variety. However, public library usually apply users as the basis for departmentalization, separate services for children, students, physically handicapped, blind, extension service, etc. are some of the characteristics for the division. Academic libraries are slightly different. It has a different functional units. Academic libraries use broad subject areas like criteria of division such as science, social science and humanities. Again, each of the broad functional units may have to be further divided into smaller units like acquisition of books, serial acquisition and control, reference and bibliographic services, etc. Some libraries also get organized on the basis of the material they serve, such as books, periodicals, microforms, maps, machine-readable forms, and other forms with further divisions. No single or a single set of criteria, however, is found to be workable in all situations for all libraries. Libraries have been using this varying combination of this to produce a hybrid structure. Now, there is a distinction between the smaller and the larger libraries. The point to be noted here is that every library, small or large, has to be performing variety of activities. In smaller libraries, the work allotment will be between a few persons, but in large libraries, the activity have to be performed by a number of persons. In smaller organizations, the distribution of work is comparatively simpler. But in larger libraries, the division of work will have to be very carefully worked out with the application of principles and procedures. The purpose and the principle for division. The purpose and the principle for division of activities into smaller or viable units is to group different activities into homogeneous units. For performing the functions of these groups of works, persons with different skill, techniques, qualification, experience are required. Now, it's a very important component. We will look into it right now. It's workflow management. Most important word is interrelationships. The interrelationships among them is also important for smooth flow of work. For instance, the acquisition and technical processing of books may have to be planned properly so that there is hardly any delay in making them available to the users. In other words, there should be minimum delay from time books are received in the library and the time they are made available for use to the readers. Similarly, there are many other groups of activities which fall into a sequence whose smooth flow is highly desirable and the time factor being most important. The choice of the characteristics for division of work in small or large libraries will depend upon their own requirements and convenience for ease of operation and should primarily serve the purpose of the division. There is a principles of organizing a structural pattern, and it is very important all of you to understand each of these principles. The principles listed and explained below are broad guidelines that help an organization function effectively and smoothly. The unity of objectives. The organizational structure should facilitate the contribution of individuals to the attainment of organization's objective, assuming that it has spelled out the objective unambiguously. Principle of efficiency. The objectives of the organization must be accomplished with minimum cost and undesirable waste and effort. The organizational structure should enable the organization to function efficiently. Then comes your principle of balance. There should be a reasonable balance in the sizes of various departments, divisions, etc. Between centralization and decentralization, between span of control and the number of levels, among all type of features such as human, technical, and financial things are involved. Unity of direction, there should be one objective and one plan for a group of activities, having the same objective in a given period of time. Unity of direction facilitates unification and coordination of activities at every level. Span of control, there should be a limit to the number of subordinates reporting to a higher official. This is necessary to ensure that proper communication and control of work is accomplished by everyone. Then another important principle is scalar principle. There should be a final authority in every organization. The authority and the responsibility should go together. This means when a responsibility for work is given to a person, the person also have the authority to enforce control and discipline on that. Then comes your unity of command. Each person should be answerable to only one person, that is immediate superior. This means that each employee should have only one boss. Delegation of authority and responsibility. The process of delegation of authority should take into account the consideration, the results expected, the task assigned, the degree of delegation required to accomplish the task, and the responsibility to be fixed. We have already mentioned under scalar principle that the authority and the responsibility should go together. Actually, this is very, and in a library perspective, you will find in a typical library, all these principles are extremely important for a smooth functioning of the library. Separation of line and staff positions. Line positions are those that are in hierarchical chain in an organization. Line activities are those that are directly involved in the fulfillment of tasks assigned to a person who comes under the line. A person who comes in the line is answerable to his superior in the line. On the other hand, staff activities are those that provide advice, support, and service to persons in the line positions. These persons do not have any command authority or responsibility as we have dictated in the past principles. Centralization versus decentralization. Centralization is the degree to which authority is retained by higher level officers within an organization rather than delegated to lower level persons. In decentralization, on the other hand, the authority is distributed to lower level positions so that decision making is possible at other levels also. But there cannot be any final answer that can be given to this aspect of management. There are pros and cons to both the sides in decentralization and decentralization is concerned. There should be a balance between the two, depending upon the nature of decision making that should be conducive to the set objectives and the goals of the organization. Another important component, which is extremely important as an organization perspective, is coordination and integration. Coordination is the process of linking several activities to achieve a functional whole. And integration is the unified control of a number of successive or similar operations. Both these principles provide for unified function, ensuring the achievements of the set goals, objectives, and targets. It should be necessary to reiterate that all these principles would apply only when the scale of operation is quite large. Smaller libraries would find these principles useful to know, although there may be any necessity to apply them. These principles of structural organizations are to be studied in conjunction with the staffing pattern. Library functions. The main functions of every library are collection building. That is acquisition, technical processing, classification, cataloging, stock maintenance, arrangement and display of the collections in the stacks with proper arrangement of books, of reference books in the reference room and in reading rooms and other section of the library where books are required, consulted, browsed. Reader service like circulation, reading room service, reference and bibliographic service, office management, etc. We shall deal only with the major operations involved in each of these functional units. There are, however, a number of technical as well as routine work involved in each of these major functions, most of which will have to be learned when you are taken up a particular library job. So there are very, very important components we have studied today. So I just for, I want to reiterate a couple of very important points to remember. All of you should remember. Organizing. What is it? Systematic arrangement of activities by dividing and subdividing and grouping. The purpose of organizing is to apportion the roles and responsibilities to individuals, groups of staff to attain the goals and objectives of the organization. A framework is created for the activities which establish relationship between various levels of persons working at different positions. An organizational structure of a library would show the number of departments, divisions, sections, etc., their functions, indicating the relationship duties and responsibilities of the staff, communication flow, etc. Points to remember, second component is the characteristics chosen for division must be relevant to the purpose to obtain the desired result. The purpose of the departmentalization is to ensure optimal efficiency and effective use of organizational resources. The different types of libraries may choose characteristics appropriate to their purpose of the division. No single or a single set of criteria is found workable for all situations in a library. The principles of organizing a structural pattern are meant to ensure a smooth and effective functioning of the organization. All the principles which we have looked into, all those principles given are of value and importance. Let me tell you that all of you have to remember all these principles. Some are indispensable, like principles of responsibility and authority, line and staff positions, coordination and integration, because these are very, very pragmatic principles which are aligned with any kind of library, whether it's a small library, medium-sized library, academic library, larger library, national library, whatever it is. These principles would apply when the scale of operation is large, as in the libraries of universities, large research institutions, or industrial undertakings. So the functional units of a library are what? Acquisition, technical processing, stack maintenance, reading room facilities, reference, bibliography, and information service, photocopying service, etc. And each of these components or units are very, very important. And when you look into the principles, if you keep the principle in your left hand and on the right hand side, if you look at these functional units, you will see that they are so much interconnected with each other. So many people are working in these different units, and how they have to lot of coordination and integration is required. Acquisition is meant for collection building of a library. It is the most important function, since the good quality collections give a reputation to the library. Technical processing is meant for organizing the collection systematically for use. Stack maintenance is stocking the library collection in an organized manner for easy location and replacement. User service include a number of services for the use of the collection and attending the personally to user requirements. And then the reprographic services or photocopying services. So all these points which I'm trying to touch upon here are extremely important as far as an organizing a library is concerned. So with that, thank you all for patience listening to my session on this. Thank you all.